Hello, my name is Nikolai J and welcome to my channel. I recently had the pleasure of watching Den of Thieves. It is on Netflix right now if you'd like to go check it out. So I watched this movie and it is a crime thriller, I believe. That's the genre it's under. It's action, crime, something to that effect. It came out in 2018 and it is 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now it stars O'Shea Jackson, 50 Cent, Pablo Schreiber, I believe his name is, Gerard Butler, and Evan Jones. And it was directed by Christian Gudgast, something to that effect. But it was directed by Christian. The plot follows two teams. One is a heist team and then one is a team of sheriffs. The sheriff's team is led by Gerard Butler and the heist team is basically led by Pablo Schreiber. Throughout this whole movie, they both keep a close eye on one another. One always thinks they have the one up on another, but they always end up being right behind each other. And the person that's used to kind of relay information is O'Shea Jackson. He seems to be the weaker one and just the more easily turned one, because he's on the villain side, but he's not the type to hang out with criminals of that nature. So Gerard Butler just basically asked him, what are you doing with them? And he says, I drive for them. They like the way I drove. That's it. That's pretty much all I do. I don't know their plans. I don't know anything about them. Blase, blase. So everything comes to a head when the heist group decides to rob the most secure bank in the world. Pablo Schreiber, who is the leader, goes then to tell his team about every single thing down to a T on how the bank runs and all the security they'll have to face and all this stuff. The plan will have to be airtight or else they will unfortunately be caught and go to jail. It's a very intricate plan, but he feels like they can do it. Now, throughout the movie, of course, both teams are constantly trying to outsmart one another and just trying to get the one up. But because the sheriffs are a little on the crooked side, you know, he even says to O'Shea Jackson, Gerard Butler, he says, we're the kind of cops who won't drag you to jail, will shoot you, it's less paperwork. Really intense, but that's just how they roll pretty much. All right, now something that I had not noticed with this movie that I noticed when I watched it for a second time was it was very slow to start. So I was watching it with someone else and they were super bored. This movie was what, 2 hours and 20 minutes? For the first hour or so, they were super duper bored. Like hour and probably actually 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Actually, probably a solid hour and 50 minutes they were bored. And I didn't understand that because I thought the story was interesting. I didn't find it boring. But the person that I sat with did. They were like, there is nothing happening, no kind of action, and it is very, very slow to start. And that made me realize it is pretty slow in the beginning. The only thing that happens is when they try to rob an armored truck, still an armored truck in the beginning, and then they have that shootout. But after that, it's very, very slow. And she was just like, this is the slowest movie ever. I'm trying with everything in my power not to fall asleep. Now, again, I felt like the story was good and it interested me learning the background and everything he had to say. But other people didn't find it so interesting. I do feel like some of the stuff really wasn't relevant. I liked seeing it because I feel like it gave more of a personality and just an identity to the characters. Like, for instance, Gerard Butler's wife. She leaves him, files for divorce, and takes her kids. They show that throughout, but it actually has, like, nothing to do with the story. Like, he didn't even have to really be married in this movie. It didn't enhance the story in any way is what I'll say. But I liked seeing the wife scene, but others were not as easily swayed. They felt like it was pointless. It was a pointless scene. Or how they told the story of Donnie and then they focused on Gerard Butler. They told a little bit about Donnie and then focused on Gerard Butler and told a little bit of Ray, but just enough that you knew who they were, but not enough to really understand why they did what they did. Now, I will say for the heist team that was led by Pablo, they were extremely skilled in the fact that they knew how to get what they wanted. And and cause as little damage as possible and hurt as few people as possible. They were so like smooth with their plan and everything was done. And they really didn't want to hurt civilians. That was never their goal. They only really shot at uniforms. They had no desire to kill any civilians or hurt them. That was never what they wanted. It just, of course, is one of those things where if a civilian is there and they're in the way or they cause a problem, then fine. But they really only went for uniforms, and even then they didn't try to shoot the uniforms. It was more so, of course, they're gonna raise their gun and then I have to shoot them. But if not for that, they didn't feel the need to kill everybody who's necessarily in a uniform. Now, I'm not an expert on guns, but I personally feel like Pablo's team had way better equipment than the sheriff's. I don't know what that gun was that he had on the top of the car. At one scene you'll see, and he shoots through the window of the vehicle, but it was a solid looking gun. And their guns just seem to have way more power than the sheriff's guns. I don't know what it was, but they just seem to have better equipment. I don't know if it's a criminal thing, they robbed a place or what, I don't know. But their guns just seem to always give the cops a run for their money. If I had to be honest, now watching it a second time, I do feel like there was information in there that may not have been the most necessary. But I'm still gonna say I didn't find it boring. I liked it. I liked the buildup of the story, and I do feel like it was interesting enough. But other people, if you're someone who wants action from start to finish, this is not the movie for that. It is not a start to finish action type thing. You're probably, in all honesty, gonna get maybe 30 minutes of action in total, maybe 35. And that's including the very first scene. Other than that, it's a lot of talking and backstories and yeah. So overall, do I think this movie is worth watching? I do feel like this movie is worth a watch. Like I said, I like the story that was presented. I like learning about Gerard's wife and how she left him and she basically wasn't putting up with his stuff. I liked all that stuff. And I liked everyone that I learned about, but when I watched it with others, they just didn't feel the same. They felt it was a little slow, and that it could have not been 2 hours and 20 minutes, or they could have went a different direction. But essentially, I thought it was good. So I do think you should watch it at least once, but I'm telling you, if you want a full, from start to finish movie full of action, this is not the movie for you. Sorry to say. But if you don't mind hearing a good buildup of a story, then this is a good movie for you to go ahead and watch. So we're on quarantine. We have plenty of time. Go ahead and give it a watch. Like I said, it's on Netflix right now. So if you have it, go ahead and watch it. And if you don't like it, you can always shut it off, like I always say. But all right, thank you so much for watching this review. I hope this gave you a little insight into Den of Thieves without telling you everything about the movie. And I hope I have enticed you to watch it. And I hope to see you in my next video.